Hello everyone. We are here looking again at reveals for Zenkai 9. This time, fan favorite character, Teen Gohan. He's coming back, except that it's actually a Goku deck. That's okay. It's actually a good thing to have that name, because as it turns out, a lot of the best cards in the game in yellow are like tied to yellow Son Gokus. So we can jump right in, take a peek, see how good these cards are. So the leader, honestly, the front, both of them are like complex and simple, right? Their advantage is really simple. It's not like they're doing anything super tricky. It's not some big gimmick deck. It's just like a really strong advantage engine. So on attack, you do draw one card on the front side, so it's not an activate main. So going second is definitely not a hindrance at all. Activate main, add a face-up yellow Son Goku from your Z deck to your Z energy to draw one. So this is only from those 4-drops that we'll look at in a second, but it is cool that you can do it on the front side as well. Activate main, or I guess Awaken is an activate main battle, but when your life is at 4 or less, or you have 2 or more energy and a yellow Son Goku with energy cost of 4 or more in play, draw 2 and pick down to 6. So it's not as good as a 1-1, honestly, but draw 2 is still totally fine, especially in yellow, right? Having extra draw power never really hurts. It's just one of those things that occasionally it's nice to be able to get an additional play on like turn 2, so that way you can defend with like double riposte or something like that. Then as we go to the Awaken side, this is a Goku and a Gohan, so that is super relevant for lots of our different support cards from old sets as well as new stuff now. When this card attacks, draw 1, and then when your yellow Son Goku is removed from a battle area by a skill, choose up to one of your yellow Son Gohan childhood cards and it gets 5,000 for the turn. So this is relevant in a couple different ways. First, it does mean that if you just like have a yellow Goku out on your board, if your opponent removes it at all, your leader immediately gets buffed to 20k for the turn, and that's just like a little obnoxious, right? Like it turns all of your opponent's math just a little bit more on its head. Which is really good. And then, of course, you can also do it offensively, where when you use these new yellow Son Gokus to swap into the Son Gohan 5 costs, this auto will enter pending, and by the time the Gohan is on board, this auto can then resolve, and you can choose that Gohan, basically turning our SR that we'll look at in a bit into a 25 dual attacker. Then we have an activate main to add a yellow Son Goku from our Z deck to our Z energy. Same exact effect, draw 1 card. So this can be a draw 2 if you do get access to those tools. It kind of just depends on how frequently you're able to actually make that happen. So with that, we can look at these Z cards. The Son Goku Protective Father, this is a Unison in yellow. So having access to a +1 cost Unison is really cool, as the fact that you can play it out of your Z deck pretty darn quickly. And then, well, you have access to all the different free counterplays and counterattacks. So specifically, you're going to have Release from Evil and the Vegeta Prideful Transformation as a really good cornerstone defense. I really like those cards. I think they have a good place in the meta now that Deflect is a lot less prevalent. Just +1, switch one of your opponent's battle cards to rest mode, and then activate main for 0. You can discard a card from your hand, choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO it, and then play up to 1 yellow swap Goku with an energy cost of 4 and swap from under this card, which is actually pretty cool that you can just basically use that because of its Z-Stack skill to just immediately grab a Son Goku with an energy cost of 4, which is going to be one of those face-up ones, so when you play this, you kind of give up a draw as well. But this card gets a 15k attack off prior to using either of those skills, just because if you have a Goku card under it, you get a plus 10k. Not bad. And then we have the Gohan Destiny Entrusted. I think this card is actually crazy. Like, this card is super, super strong. It's a unique barrier. If you have 3 or more energy and you do have that face-up yellow Son Goku in your Z deck, you reduce the cost of it in your Z deck by 4, so it's just a 1-1 instead of that 5-1. But on board, it's still going to be a 5-1, so suddenly a lot of those, like, quick barrier cards don't hit it very well, and it's just like a 20k swing every turn. When it attacks, you choose up to one of your opponent's rest mode battle cards and KO it, then play up to 1 yellow battle card with an energy cost of 1 from your hand. This basically reads to me as on swing, draw a card, like, because you get to, you know, produce that free body, and then also KO something, and it's a barrier 20k 5 cost. Like, that's so good. Played from a non-hand area, no less. Not to mention the fact that this is a Son Gohan with an energy cost of 5 for our Gohans that evolve. Going into these Gokus, these cards, okay. Elephant in the room, We know that it doesn't really work the way that they intended. We think that both of their activate mains to play themselves for a yellow if you have 2 or more energy, they were supposed to work on the front side as well. But they don't. So we'll talk about those later, but we're going to pretend as if you could play them on the front side for now. Basically, they have the same few set effects. They're 15k 4 cost, 0-5k combo. Deflect, swap 5 into the yellow Sun Gohan with an energy cost of 5 and 20,000 power. So you can go immediately into the SR in the set. When this card attacks, play up to 1 yellow battle card with an energy cost of 1 from your hand, then place this card face up in your Z deck at the end of the battle. On the other one, it's when it attacks, draw 1 and place it in the Z deck. So I think the one on the left is just a little bit better because effectively it's going to do a very similar effect where you play out a 1 cost that draws, which just makes it a better version of the same draw effect. But honestly, you'll probably play 3 and 3 or 4 and 3 or something like that. They do just immediately place themselves in the Z deck, so they can either swap just after being played, or you can go ahead and attack with them and get some additional advantage by drawing / playing stuff and then adding them to your Z deck face up. So that allows you to get, of course, your Z stacks, your extra draws from your leader, blah, 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 blah. But swapping 5 is kind of the main purpose of these cards in my eyes, and we're going to see how that kind of plays out. The Gohans. I want to start with the SR because it is definitely the most important one. Deflect, dual attack, 5 drop, 20k, very good stat line, protected, right? Like, it's weak to, say, defeating the Demon Gohan, right? Like, that's not very good. But the fact that you can make this into a 25k dual attacker by just, like, it's a 1 cost 25 dual attacker that has the auto that when it attacks, you play a yellow 1 cost battle card from your hand. So you can, like, play out things like Basil. You can play all the different cantrips that are already in this deck. You can play out, you know, Barrier Chi-Chis or Gohans or Pans to make sure that you're getting that value of that 5k. You're producing more yellow cards on your board if there's any additional effects or you want a successor or something. Like, this card is so good. You could even, like, play, like, a swap package and, like, play, like, a 1-cost Bardock that's a 10k swing, and then you can swap into, like, Goten or something, or one of the 15ks and just get that value. Like, you could just be super aggro with it, too. This card is so good. The fact that it has this activate main to just play it in any yellow leader is really cool, too. Just for 2 yellows, if your leader's yellow, you have 3 or more energy and switch an active mode card to rest mode, so probably, like, a Unison that can't attack or a Z Extra. You just play it from your hand and choose one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode, or in rest mode and KO it, sorry. So it's like a little piece of removal, and then it's a lot of pressure because it's a 20 dual attack that, again, plays 2 cards that presumably, if one of them is like a Basil or a Self-Awakener with double strike or crit or whatever, just a lot of pressure that could be built from this card. Very impressed by it. The other 5-drop we have is that Fighting Against Terror there. When it's played, you get to place up to 1 Son Goku from the Cell Games from your drop face up in its owner's Z deck, and then KO one of your opponent's rest mode battle cards. So that's going to be the 1-drop cantrip. Nothing crazy, but it basically just says you get to draw a card when you swap into this one, because you'll place that one over there, and then your leader gets to put it into your Z energy. Activate main for 2 if your leader's the yellow Son Gohan childhood. Draw 1 and play it from your hand, and it gains double strike for the turn. So basically, it's a pay 2, draw 2, 20k double strike. That's pretty good, and you get to KO something. That sure is the Turles, like from set 15, was it? Pay 2, draw 1, double strike, KO something. Except now it draws 2 because you're in this leader specifically. And then we have the Gohan Rage Triggered. This card is actually the boss monster of the deck. I think it's just that it's not as generic, so they wanted to make it not necessarily the SR of the set. So double strike, 30k, huge stat line, 8 cost. Maybe some successor shenanigans later. EX Evolve for a yellow if you have 3 or more energy over the Sun Gohan with an energy cost of 5. So this is the Z battle card, this Youth Defying Terror, and the Fighting Against Terror, and then I think as well as maybe some old cards from the previous Yellow Team Gohan deck from the Bojack stuff in set 6. But when it's played or attacks an opponent's battle card, switch to active mode and then choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and switch it to rest mode. This is really obnoxious because it means that you get both of the attacks off with the Youth Defying Terror. Assuming that you swapped into it, it's a 25, and then you evolve, and this is a 35 that restands, and it board wipes your opponent's 35Ks as long as you can keep attacking. If you didn't get floodgated, you just get to swing 35 into everything over and over and over again until those things die, right? Like, the auto is just super ridiculous. This card is so strong. Like I can't, like I'm imagining like a turn 3 where you just go, all right, 1 for Goku, swap into the 5 cost, draw, play out a bunch of 1-drops, build a bunch of Z energy, you know, get some big numbers, draw some additional cards, and then you just, as soon as you're finished attacking 25-25, you swap into this, board wipe your opponent, keep pushing, and then you get a 35 double that you could like turn into a Gogeta or Sin at the end of it, or you know, put it towards like a Cell Xeno or something if that's the secret rare you want to play. I don't know. It just seems so good. And then at auto at the end of your turn, you play a 1 cost from your drop, so it's another +2. Like, you just immediately go, all right, time to play out this 1 cost, and oh, look at that. That 1 cost draws a card, and it's a 5k on board. Wow. Like, it's so strong. I'm really blown away by how good these yellow cards are, just given how yellow has been for the last few sets. Our 1-drops, TLDR, these cards all say draw a card, but they don't all technically say that. So Gohan is also that you can discard a card from your hand if you have 3 or more energy. When your opponent plays a card by a skill, you can switch it to rest mode and then negate the skill for the game. So it gets a 1-time discard to tap something. Vegeta allows you to switch one of your other 1 costs to rest mode to gain 16k, so you can go to 20k and be an attacker, and then on play it's a top 5 instead of just draw a card. The Goku is a blocker, which is super good if your leader is the yellow Gohan childhood. I don't necessarily think we're going to play this one as it's such a high quantity, just given the fact that like it doesn't inherently draw on turn 1. But it is something that you could be doing. And then if your leader's the yellow Gohan, you place a non-super combo battle card with an energy cost of 1 from your deck, drop to the bottom of your deck, place this card face up in its owner's Z deck. So you can go ahead and play it for free, draw a card, put it over to your Z energy, draw another card, and then you also get to recycle back one of these other 1-drops. And then the Piccolo, when it's played, draw 1. And you get to place this card in the owner's drop to switch one of your opponent's battle or unison cards to rest mode. That's not as good. It's Activate Battle, which is like cool that you could, in theory, leave it on the board and then tap your opponent's cards with like a non-energy effect. But chances are, as like a 1 cost, it's just not very likely to live by that point. It just kind of depends on the matchup and if it's something that you think you could pull off. And then we got just 2 dudes that are just resting and waiting. If your leader's yellow, you have 1 or more of each of the names. In rest mode, you get to draw 2 and can't attack for the turn. You can resolve this at the end of the turn if you want. I don't think this card will see really any play because it's effectively a worse version of the World Champ card from like the Monkey deck that was from World Nat. But that card wasn't very good either. Pot of Greed for 1 is not very good in this game. It's the same advantage as just playing a cantrip, except now it's an extra card. Speaking of resting and waiting, though, we have to wait for a presumed Errata. So just to recover that, the leader is just a Goku on the front side rather than a Gohan childhood. So your 4-drop Gokus that are in archetype cannot play themselves while your leader's on the front side. So to be able to awaken, you have to find a different yellow Sun Goku with an energy cost of 4 or more. So I've got 7 examples here to go over what are some of the ones that, assuming there isn't an Errata and they just say, well, this is what you're playing with, these are our best bets on how to actually do that. So from left to right, we've got Ultimate Duo. This card was for sure getting played in the deck. It's one of the reasons that being a yellow Goku or Vegeta is so broken. This card got limited to 1 pretty quickly after release, like I think just 2 sets later. Like the card is super duper ridiculous. I just cannot foresee this card remaining bad, like at all. Like the negation of a skill before KO is super relevant in just like random bits of matchups, and then it's always just a 1 energy double strike KO something. Very good. Not to mention the fact that it's both names. And then we have the Destined Battle. This card isn't as good in this deck as it is in, say, Majin Vegeta because you don't get the draw, but it's still probably going to be a 19k blocker that you can play for 1 going first, just because it's if you have 2 or more energy. I think that's going to be really valid. Unfortunately, it's an Activate Battle there, so you do have to attack, right, or get to Battle Step, rather. But it is something you can do to make sure that you can awaken. Yeah, and it's totally fine. And then we've got the Goku and Frieza Spirit Clash. This is a 5 cost. Just play it for 2 out of your Z energy after you combo it. It sucks that you have to do that, but like it does let you get a draw and a KO and like force the game forward. I don't know. The card's like okay because it's barrier removal, but it's also nothing crazy. So just something to think about. And then we have the Fulfilling a Promise, the new regional promo. Basically, you get to play it for 1 at the end of the battle after you combo it, and then you can play unisons to KO stuff, but I think maybe you would just do like one unisons, that way you could foolish it out one time, and then any number of copies this has is just going to be a combo, KO something, 20k. The others are going to be the Father and Son. It's a free play if your opponent has 3 more energy when you tap a card. The further beyond is if you are playing a Goku's Lineage package, which, like we talked about with the 5 cost, is totally feasible. Like, I don't think that's bad at all. This card has Barrier, so it's safe from a lot of the counter plays that would be able to hit it, especially from red. And then it can also pick up a life, which is really cool, because then you can, like, just immediately go from, I guess it would be before you awaken, so it wouldn't really matter, but if you were at 6, this would allow you to do that later in the game. And then if you wanted to, you could of course run a top end Goku's Lineage card to swap into. And then we have Universe at Stake. This card is just kind of a yellow boss monster staple. Really broken, honestly. Just tapping cards, KOing stuff for 2. The Gohan being a 5 cost barrier guy means that it's very likely to live, and this card is just as likely to hit the board right away to make sure that you do it. And guess what? If your opponent removes it, you get to become a 20k for the turn. Yay! So, just stuff to think about. I imagine the Errata's coming. I wouldn't expect them to do anything different than what they usually do, which is errata these stuff at the last possible minute to make sure that we know the cards work this way. But as of today, the recording, the second day of reveals for it, they have no information. So I'm going to assume that it's just going to be this way, and then we'll find the errata at the end. But if not, here's your 7. With that, deck looks really strong. I think that if they errata it, the things are just going to really boil over and kind of like push yellow back into contention. My biggest question mark is going to be, can yellow's defense work? Nimbus can buy turns, but only in conjunction with another negate. Like, Riposte doesn't really cut it anymore. Vegito and Bardock are hard to get online. Sin is okay. Like, it's interesting. I don't know if the yellow defense is going to get there, but I'm excited to find out. See you guys then.